Without a doubt, we live in difficult times. And it's in times like this that we need inspiration. We need God to speak to us and reaffirm the purpose of life, humanity, the purpose of our very life. Why are we alive now, and why should we get out of bed today? And the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes, written by King Solomon, the preacher, the son of David, gives us the meaning of life. Let's delve into it together. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 9 through 14 in the New American Standard Bible says this: "What profit is there to the worker from that in which he toils? I have seen the task which God has given the Son of Man with which to occupy themselves. He has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also set eternity in their hearts, yet so that man will not find out the work which God has done from the beginning even to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good in one's lifetime. Moreover, that every man who eats and drinks sees good in all his labor. It is a gift from God. I know that everything God does will remain forever. There is nothing to add to it, and there is nothing to take from it. For God has so worked that men should fear him." The preacher shifts from life's monotony in chapter 1, verses 4 through 11, to 4 viewpoints of life. That's chapters 3, 4, and 5. Up, inward, ahead, and around. A viewpoint of life. Up, within, ahead, and around. While life is monotonous, chapter 1, verse 4 through 11, and life and time are cyclical and predetermined, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, a person should look inward, within, chapter 3, verses 9 through 14, and consider that eternity is in their heart as, quote, the gift of God, verse 13. God has fulfilled everything in his predetermined time, verse 11, verses 1 through 8, and set eternity in their heart, verse 11. According to Daniel Estes in the Handbook on the Wisdom Books and Psalms, Daniel Estes, page 313, it says this: "Humans are bound by time, but they are wired for eternity. They intuitively know that there must be meaning somewhere, and that they were made for more than vain toil." End quote. David Estes. Isn't that deep? So true. There is a tension between the physical existence of futility and the spiritual reality of an individual's self-awareness and sense of divine eternity. The phrase, quote, "I know," end quote, the phrase "I know" is repeated twice in this paragraph. The first mention of it is followed by the better purpose, quote, "to rejoice and to do good," end quote, in verse 12. In the same sentence, the gift of God is eating, drinking, and evaluating labor as good in verse 13. This is not a declaration of the value of the pursuit of pleasure, but instead it is valuing pleasure as a gift from God. Therefore, in place of stressing about the mysteries of existence and human suffering, humanity needs to accept their limits and enjoy what God has placed within their grasps. It's the simple pleasures of life well lived and the provisions of the basic needs of life. We don't have to figure out everything about life. We don't have to avoid anything that might bring difficulty or struggle. We mustn't chase after sensory pleasure or good times as a means of purpose, contentment, and fulfillment. A better purpose, my friends, and God's gift is to enjoy life's goodness and God's provision as good. The second mention of the phrase I know. The second mention of I know is about the divine plan in verse 14. God's actions are comprehensive and endure forever and ever. The divine result and purpose are so that humanity will fear God. That's what verse 14 says. Fear. The Hebrew word is yar. Fear God. The Hebrew idea of yar is a healthy and balanced awe, respect, and fright. Awe is a positive fear of wonder, being awestruck. Awe leads to worship. Respect is a natural fear of honoring, like honoring your parents. Respect leads to obedience, according to Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 3. Awe, respect, and then fright. Fright is a negative fear of judgment, like a fear of hell. Fright leads to evangelism and missions. The fear of the Lord is holding awe, respect, and fright in a healthy balance. And yet we tend to overemphasize one aspect of fear. A balanced fear, awe, and fright is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge, according to Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. The preacher, King Solomon, ends Ecclesiastes with the dual command in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 to fear and obey God. How is your fear of God out of balance, my friends? What are you doing to experience yar, a healthy and balanced awe, respect, and fright? What are you doing to experience that? Eternity in our hearts, we can enjoy life's goodness. With eternity in our hearts, we can enjoy God's provision as we awe, respect, and fright God in a healthy and balanced manner. This topic is incredibly important, and we need time to think about the purpose of our individual lives. Why do I exist, and how can I make the most of the time that God has given me? If you're interested in delving into Ecclesiastes deeper, then I wrote a book in 2018. It's 50 pages. It's $1.98 on Amazon. It's for a Kindle, an e-reader, and it's called Search for Significance, an examination of Ecclesiastes. And I will put the link to this book on Amazon in the description below as an additional resource for you if you wish.